today I realized that I've been very ignorant of the help that I could have taken for so many of my players or even for myself for all I know. In the last year, I've had quite a few athletes understand themselves better.
The best way to understand the player is to walk a mile with them. That's the easiest way to sum it up.
So until successes are actually seen, people don't want to come out with it. I've been a coach for about 14 years now, and I never realized, or rather, let me put it this way, I undervalued the value of seeking the help of a mental conditioning coach, because at that point in time, it didn't seem like, is this really necessary? I've gone through this whole player, as a coach. But today I realize that I've been very ignorant of the help that I could have taken for so many of my players or even for myself for all I know in trying to make the athletes better. And that's exactly what's come up with my interactions with Purnima. In the last year, I've had quite a few athletes understand themselves better, handle themselves better when they've had failures, whether it be in terms of selections or whether they are having a difficulty on the field performing. A real time, a high intensity situation, they've been able to calm themselves down through different techniques that she has suggested along with her team and work towards getting these players to be better. And they are definitely not just performing, but they are in a good space to take their losses that come their way on their chin and move on. That's how this field is going to help players and athletes going forward. Not just athletes, everybody else who's associated with the athlete as well. So we've got a few questions that came up from our coaches and from players who are invested in making their athletes better, and we're going to have Purnima answer them so that there is a better understanding of how we can take this forward. So one of the first questions that came up to us was, in a high intensity environment, there are players who completely zone out. They feel that they are not able to think, act, things that they've done always. And there is a real time match happening. And then they call this the brain fade. Why does it happen?
So this can happen because of two reasons. One is there is a cognitive fatigue that can come in from continuously being attentive or continuously performing, and general fatigue hits can also hit the mind as well. The first thing that happens if it is a cognitive fatigue is the feeling that suddenly I'm not in control of the situation. And that can then lead on to a series of emotional responses which takes takes the attention away from what's happening around and goes very quickly within. So the first one is a sense of helplessness. So if I'm losing control, then I'm starting to feel helpless while I'm playing, and my actions matter for the success or the failure of the game itself. Then very quickly when I feel that sense of loss of control that starts to set in, or tiredness for that matter, my mind then starts to worry about whether I'm performing at my optimal best or am I starting to become a weak link. And after that, the mind can overtake their entire narrative and focus on one mistake happening here. How would that, how is that something that I can't recover from or rectify from, and so on. Sometimes it's a very conscious thought that certain players can verbalize saying, hey, I feel this way. For others, you can just feel as a very overall numbing down of sensories, whether it's auditory, visual, and so on. So it can happen in both ways. Every athlete experiences differently, but it starts with that feeling that loss of control and subsequent helplessness that will come in. One very good strategy that a person can employ over here is something called as a grounding technique. A grounding technique is something that helps me zap back to me and in the now, so that I'm able to bring that concentration back into a single space as opposed to allowing it to loosen down. So it's a good idea to keep practicing that during the training sessions as well, so the individual employs it. So grounding techniques can be sensory based. So sensory based is that you feel the grass on the floor, or you kind of touch the sand and get the sensations first to your hand and then bring it back into awareness. The other way is also through drinking water, taking a step back, deep breathing, even splashing water on your face and stuff like that. So those kind of things can help. It has to be employed, it has to be trained before, so you know that you're going back into a grounding technique. So even during training phases, keeping a section alone to help players identify how to recover from this using these tactile responses can be very, very helpful.
A question that a coach asked was, I want to understand my player beyond what they offer to me on the ground. How?
The best way to understand the player is to walk a mile with them. That's the easiest way to sum it up. So you spend some time knowing the player on the field, and you spend some time knowing the player off the field as well. So you do in companies, we do company engagements wherein the whole team just goes out for a cup of coffee or a movie together, and in that space when they're more relaxed, you notice how there is differences in how people relate to each other, and then you get a more open conversation asking about them that's beyond their beyond their athletic performance. So typically when you look at a person's personality or getting to know the person, there is certain parts of myself that I'll be comfortable exposing while I'm at work, because I think that helps me work better. But there's certain parts of me that I feel may not be relevant to the work that I do, so I won't show it. But when I'm away from the ground or away from work, there's certain personalities of mine that brings in the whole holistic picture. So it's a good idea, especially in team sports, for it's a good idea for the coaches to know the player outside of the workspace as well. So you get a bigger context as to why the player performs the way they do, what drives them, what motivates them, what demotivates them. So you get a wonderful, rich amount of information when you are able to spend time with the person outside of the field as well.
Thank you. The next question, and probably something that runs in everybody's mind. This is still taboo. But then you hear popular athletes come out later and speak about how a mental conditioning coach helps them. Whereas they are not able to talk about it when they are into it.
Yeah.
Do you think that has a reason?
Oh, absolutely. So there is a false narrative or a false stereotype that exists saying that anything that if you say or you proclaim yourself to be good at something, it has to come easy. It shouldn't be difficult. You shouldn't experience any stress from doing the things that you do. So coming out and letting the world know, letting your support systems know that, hey, this is something that I'm aspiring for, but subsequently I'm also struggling with these things, is often perceived as a weakness. It comes in because there is a stereotype that it shouldn't be a weakness because you're continuously perfect and you're continuously strong. Similarly, when people try and talk about their difficulties that they might be facing as a part of reaching their aspirational goals, the kind of feedback systems that they get, whether it's online or offline, predominantly is filled with a little bit more of criticism, objectification, as well as a lot of skepticism that will come in. But if a person comes out and says that there is a narrative saying, I did experience the adversity, but now I'm over it now, then the same transformation is seen as a success story, which a lot of people laud, praise, celebrate, and so on, which is an interesting dynamic, but it doesn't help with the stigma aspect of talking about things when when you're in a difficult space. Because when you're in a difficult space, the first emotion that hits you is the feeling that, hey, the loneliness is the first one that hits you, that I'm the only one going through this. So it's important that we talk about it. It's important that we encourage a person to talk about things when they're struggling through it, then to help normalize it so that the person doesn't feel that that is a very heavy and individual burden to carry. So the stigma exists solely because of this reason.
So until successes are actually seen, people don't want to come out with it.
Because otherwise they're seeing
themselves as a
weak individual who is not deserving of successes or higher aspirations and stuff like that. So it's a very heavy,
loaded. No?
Yeah, it's too loaded.
Right. Thank you so much. No. And I hope your questions got answered. And whatever it is, you can throw it across. I keep telling my students, my players, and coaches that I train, there is no question that is stupid. There is no question that is insignificant. I think everybody has questions, and most of it deserves an answer.
Yes.
So thank you for tuning in, and thank you once again.
Yes. To add on, Mind Matters is a safe space. So anything with regards to the mind, whether it is the excitable sides of it or it's the worrying sides of it, feel free to share, and I'm sure we can have a conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you.